Hello, everyone, and welcome. Glad you're watching. I'm Rusty Dunn from Caterpillar's Enterprise Communications team. Pleased to be with our Chief Financial Officer, Andrew Bonfield, here to talk about Caterpillar's second quarter 2020 financial results. Andrew, so nice to be with you again as we continue to work remotely. We continue to socially distance ourselves and do everything we can to be safe. Let me ask you first, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, Rusty, and it's great to see you. Obviously, it's been a really interesting period of time. It's been a very challenging time, as everyone can imagine, going through the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. I can't be prouder of our employees and the way we've actually reacted, both with our dealers, with our customers, making sure we are out there providing the backup power, the support our customers need to continue to keep things rolling around the world, and at the same time, keeping safe themselves.
Safety always number one at the top of the list. So let's get into it and talk about the second quarter, covering April, May, and June, starting with sales and revenues as we take you through the numbers.
Sales and revenues were down 31%, or by $4.4 billion to $10 billion. That was across all three primary segments: construction industries, resource industries, and energy and transportation. All saw sales declines. Significant impact of that was around dealer inventory changes. Dealers are independent businesses and they manage their own inventories, and they took the opportunity of the pandemic to reduce their inventories by about $1.4 billion in the quarter, compared to about a $500 million increase the quarter of the year before. So that effectively reduced revenues by about $1.9 billion. But the remaining impact, around 50% of it, was around end user sales, down by 22% for the quarter, which is as expected, as customers didn't want to take delivery of new products whilst they were going through the uncertainty of the pandemic.
So let's look at the bottom line for just a second, Andrew, and PPS, profit per share. What did that look like for the quarter?
Profit per share was down by 70%, or $1.99 to 84 cents in the quarter. That includes a 19 cents remeasurement loss on pensions. Overall, we did obviously the biggest impact on margins was around volume. The volume decline did drive profitability down. We did see some offsets on the cost side. Things like incentive compensation was lower, travel and entertainment, and certain discretionary expenses. But obviously, that wasn't able to mitigate the significant impact on volume during the second quarter of this year.
Maybe a couple of comments about the balance sheet overall. I know you like to talk about liquidity. We're still paying dividends, but what would you say about the balance sheet at this point?
The balance sheet is really strong. We have about $8.8 billion of enterprise cash on hand at the end of the quarter. We also have about $18.5 billion of facilities available to us as a company, which means that obviously we can weather any issues that come our way during this crisis. And obviously that means we are in a strong financial position, and we were able to maintain the dividend in the quarter, which is obviously a key part of our proposition to shareholders.
And hopefully everyone's had a chance to read the financial release. But what would you tack up there as some key takeaways that you'd like?
Obviously the volume decline in sales is really the challenge for us to deal with. Obviously, where you are in this situation where with effectively closure of the economies for quite a significant period of time, and very suddenly, that was a shock. I mean, the good news is we are ready to respond. So if we see economic recovery, we will be able to respond positively. If obviously conditions get worse, we'll be able to respond appropriately as well, and make sure we tailor our production to meet future demand. From a cost perspective, we are making some cost mitigations, but at the same time, we've made a conscious decision to continue to invest in the business to drive those opportunities, which will create the greatest opportunity for long-term profitable growth. Things like new product introductions, we continue to invest in R&D, and we're continuing to invest behind services where we believe we have the opportunities for the future. So continuing to execute that strategy to drive long-term profitable growth as we move into 2021 and beyond.
Well, Andrew, thanks for taking us through those quarterly results. And I know, as we always like to do, I'd love to go beyond the numbers if we can. You recently had a chance to talk with our friend and colleague, Asha Varghese, who heads up the Caterpillar Foundation. And they are doing some incredible work and offers all of us an opportunity to give back and trying to make things better, especially during these challenging times. Let's watch that interview.
Hello, everybody. Today I'm with Asha Varghese, who's president of the CAT Foundation. Asha, can you give us a little bit of your background and how you came to join CAT?
Sure. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate the opportunity to be in this quarter's Beyond the Number. I've been with CAT for a little over a year and a half, joined as the president of the Caterpillar Foundation, and we're the philanthropic arm of the company, but really excited to be looking at the corporate social responsibility component of Caterpillar and our commitment to building resilient communities.
Great. In 2020, since the beginning of the year, this has been a really busy time for you at CAT Foundation. Obviously, with all the things that are going on in the world, starting with bushfires in Australia, to the pandemic, to the issues around social justice in the US. There's been a lot going on. Perhaps you can just let our viewers know some of the activities the foundation's been involved in.
Sure, and you're right. These truly have been unprecedented times for us. And although our mission is really focused around building resilient communities, but global disasters is a part of the work that we do. So unfortunately for us this year, we kicked off the year with Australian bushfire, where the foundation gave $250,000 to the Australian Red Cross, and our employees contributed to the matching gifts. And soon after that, we saw the outbreak of COVID-19 in China, where we supported the China Women's Development Fund, or foundation, in order to provide critical medical supplies and support to healthcare facilities. And what came after that is a global pandemic, and which we're in today. And we quickly had to respond to that as well in looking at a global response. And we provided $10 million to various organizations across the globe. And our employees, in a true Caterpillar fashion, or both our employees and retirees, also responded to our foundation's 2-to-1 matching program. And with that, we were able to support over 500 nonprofits across 43 states in the US, and all supporting various organizations, from food banks to healthcare facilities to educational organizations. And most recently, we announced $1 million donation split equally between the Equal Justice Initiative and NAACP Legal Defense Fund to help fight racism and social injustice. In addition, as Caterpillar, we're committing to continuing to invest in community programs that address the devastating effects of racism and the fight for equal justice. So those are some of the work that we've been keeping us busy from the beginning of this year, and really responding to some of the issues we're seeing across the globe. But to that end, Andrew, we know investors are increasingly more interested in companies' ESG efforts, including their philanthropic giving. So can you talk a bit more about why that is and how our investments are being received by investors?
ESG investing has become increasingly important in recent years. In Europe, it's been important for many, many years, and has been a big focus for investors. As we've seen the rise of more what we call index funds in the US, these are funds like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, which are tracking indices. They need to differentiate themselves in some ways, and often they'll have ESG-related funds, which they talk about how they are making sure that companies are responding to people's concerns around the environment, sustainability, and governance as part of their investment thesis. And that means they become more active, whether it be our employees, our customers, our dealers in the case of CAT. But we do need to make sure we're representative of that society. And ESG investments are reflecting that back to us, that the need for us to actually go out into the broader society and reflect some of the good work we're doing. And CAT Foundation is a key part of that, because obviously it does reflect part of our corporate philosophy and our corporate values as we move out. Obviously, I am incredibly proud to work for a company like Caterpillar. Great company, great brands, great products, great people, great dealers. Obviously, can you share some of the examples of some of the great investments you've been doing as part of the CAT Foundation in these recent months?
Sure. I couldn't agree with you more on the Caterpillar commitment. As part of our COVID-19 response, we partnered with the facilities across the globe in order to support the local nonprofits in order to create a bigger impact. And many examples, but a couple that I wanted to highlight. One in Houston, an organization named Baker Ripley that really leveraged digital fabrication in order to produce face masks, so protective gear for healthcare facilities. They're also collaborating with local universities and schools in order to teach students the whole process of advanced manufacturing and maker labs. So it really helps boost that diverse pipeline that we're looking in the workforce development. And across the globe in Indonesia, our partners at Hope Worldwide focused on providing 1,200 personal protective gear for healthcare facilities and workers, as well as for 1,200 families that are vulnerable and needed support, both educational as well as in providing them with support during those really hard times. I could go on about a lot of the examples that we have, but I know we're running out of time. But so I would recommend our audience to really look at our website and stay tuned for more updates on the impact that we're making across the globe.
Asha, it's been great talking to you, and it's great examples of really putting the company's ethos into action. Obviously, building a better world is what you help to do through the CARE Foundation. Thank you very much for your time today, and appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Andrew, a great conversation with Asha and the Caterpillar Foundation, really stepping up during these unprecedented times, giving us all an opportunity to contribute. Before we go, maybe a couple of final thoughts from you.
Obviously, the situation remains very fluid, with the pandemic still having an impact globally across many of our regions around the world. Obviously, we need to continue to make sure that we have that focus on being able to respond either positively or negatively to changes in demand signals. We need to continue to invest behind the business into those areas which will drive the greatest amount of long-term profitable growth, such as our services strategy and in new product introductions. And at the same time, continue that great focus we've had on safety as we move through the remainder of the year. Obviously, the most important thing is for our employees to remain safe.
Well, Andrew, even though we're talking at a distance, again, great to see you, and we look forward to talking soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rusty.
And to all of you watching, stay safe and take care.